close enough to the bewitching hour that we can start. So welcome to our 3 o'clock p.m. Tuesday, January 21st meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. As is our custom, we'll begin our meeting with the invocation led by Commissioner Frank Akins.
Bow with me, if you will. Lord, we come here today thankful that we live in a country and in a county and in a state where we're free to gather. Lord, we pray that you will protect us and give us guidance in these difficult times of trials in our country. Be with our president as he endures the trials by the liberals in our country. I pray for the safety over our armed forces and our first responders. We pray that today you will lead, guide, and direct all of our actions and our activities, and may they be pleasing to you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We want to take this opportunity to recognize some of our employees who have tenure with the organization, so I'll read those names. These are our 5-year recipients: Samantha Ramos with Community Support and Outreach, Donna D'Alessandro with Human Resources, Keith Richards, Human Resources, Rachel Webb, Library, John Medlin, and Brandon Moore with Parks and Recreation, Dwight Barrett and Christopher Helms with the Sheriff's Office, and Tamara Riesler with Social Services. With 10 years, we have Justin Kazaya and Armando Gutierrez with Social Services. And with 15 years, Sherry Conley, 911, James Eason, Environmental Health, Clara Roca with Health, Robin Wren with the Library. Then with 20 years, Fred Spruill, and 25 years, that was with the Sheriff's Office, Fred Spruill with the Sheriff's Office, 20 years. David Finley in Environmental Health with 25 years. We have some January retirements: Nelson Carey with 6 years, Kenneth Rice, Fleet Management, 12 years, Larry Davis, Public Works Engineering with 25 years, and Warren Stevens, Sheriff's Office with 29 years. We thank you for your service to Union County. We also have a special recognition this evening. Cindy Trabuker, earning Project Management Professional Certification. Mr. Manager?
I'll turn it over.
Okay, Michelle?
I'll take this, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
thank you. Cindy Trabuker is our Digital Content Manager, and she recently achieved a Project Management Professional Certification. After working toward this achievement for several years, Cindy passed this exam after coming to work for us within 6 weeks of her employment with Union County. Project Management Professional is an internationally recognized professional designation offered by the Professional Management Institute. A study by the Project Management Institute found professionals who are PMP certified enabled their organization to complete more projects on time, on budget, and meeting initial goals. To maintain a PMP, an individual must complete 60 hours of professional development courses every 3 years. So we just want to take this opportunity this afternoon to recognize Cindy with her certificate. Mr. Chairman, we have that for you to present. Thank you.
Certainly, the next individual needs no introduction, but Gloria Haney recognition.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It is my pleasure this afternoon to recognize Miss Gloria Haney. Gloria, please come up front. Gloria serves as Union County's volunteer coordinator, and she works in the Human Services Community Support and Outreach Division. She is a valuable asset to our organization and the entire community, not just for the work that we're going to recognize today, but for all of the work that she coordinates. She started at Union County as the Union County Volunteer Coordinator on November 13th, 2000. And since that time, one of her primary job tasks has been to manage and coordinate the entire operation of the Christmas Bureau. Each year, the Christmas Bureau relies on hundreds of individual, group, and family volunteers to help meet the needs of serving the families and children that need assistance at Christmas. Volunteers are very important to the success of this program, and they are relied upon to help in many ways. And Gloria, frankly, single-handedly is able to maintain that volunteer pool. Volunteers perform basic office tasks, accept donations at the Christmas Bureau location, match clients and donors, schedule volunteers, and sort toys or food for the gifts. During the distribution, volunteers organize all items for scheduled pickup. All of this takes a significant amount of organization, collaboration, and leadership. This year, there were a total of 463 volunteers who provided 2,303 hours of volunteer work for the Christmas Bureau. The Christmas Bureau served a total of 1,641 families, including 4,661 children. Without Gloria Haney's hard work, dedication, and leadership, this would not be possible. And before the manager says a few words, we'd like to share a short video that we had produced with our communications team to provide a closer look inside what the Christmas Bureau does each year.
Would you like to make some Christmas stockings for boys and girls? Every item that's in the Christmas Bureau is given to us by someone in the community. Everything is a donation. Every dollar that's spent goes to the families. Every gift that walks through the doors goes to a child in need. If it wasn't for the community, we could not do this. My name is Gloria Haney. I'm the Volunteer Services Coordinator with Union County Human Services, and I also am the Director of the Union County Christmas Bureau each year. This is our 40th year for the Union County Christmas Bureau. This year we'll see around 1,800 families. Every parent wants the same thing for their kids, for them to have a really good Christmas. It's much easier for us to ask the community to help with Christmas than it is to write us a $500 check to pay a power bill that wasn't paid or rent. And by providing Christmas for these children, we're helping the families to be economically stable throughout the Christmas season.
I've been volunteering about 5 years. After I retired, I was able to give up more time. The distribution day is my favorite. I look forward to it every year. That's the day, of course, the families come by and pick up their gifts. The first year I did it, I worked directly putting the items in the car, so I got to see the reactions on their faces, and it was just such a blessing.
A lot of us live in our little silo, and we think, well, they can't really need that many things for people in Union County, but we really do. 9% of our population lives in poverty, so we really aren't even helping all of the people that we should be helping. A lot of those families just never come to ask. The best part of my job that I enjoy is putting the most generous and most giving people in our community together with those who have the greatest needs in our community, and seeing those relationships form between both sides of our county, because that's what real community is about.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I think that this short video really demonstrates the need that's in our community, but it also demonstrates the effort that it takes to meet that need. And I will tell you firsthand experience that Gloria Haney, for years and years and years, has given that effort to this. I'm not that old. No, you're not that old, because we hope that you're around for a lot longer, for a long time. But Gloria has made it her passion. She has a passion for this, and she has made it her priority to make sure that the individuals in our community are served at Christmas time through this program. But that's not all she does. If you're familiar with the senior nutrition program, my goodness, every day, every weekday, there are tens of dozens of volunteers that go 29 volunteers a day, every day. She's mouthing to me. I'm reading. I'm a good lip reader. 29 volunteers every day that go out into our community to deliver hot meals to seniors, shut-ins, disabled that are not able to get out and either grocery shop or have a nutritious meal for that day. And all of those people are vetted carefully through the program, but 29 a day, and every day, not a day goes by that every one of those meals does not get delivered and delivered on time. That is a tremendous feat when you start thinking about day in and day out over the course of the entire year, and it's all due to Gloria's hard work, the relationships that she has built in our community, and what she does for our community. And I just wanted to thank her and take this opportunity to tell you how much we appreciate what you do for the residents of Union County. You are one of our best ambassadors. You are. And we appreciate everything you do. Well, I will share this with the board. When I was at the Christmas Bureau, I had stopped in one day after lunch, just checking it out, making sure that everything was what it was supposed to be and seeing what the need was and whatnot. And this volunteer pulled me aside and she said, you know, she said, I volunteer for the Christmas Bureau every year. And she said, and I enjoy doing it, but Gloria Haney, she said, I volunteer because of Gloria Haney. Gloria Haney makes it easy to volunteer, and I feel like that when I give my time and come down here and participate in this, that I'm actually accomplishing something and I'm giving back to this community. She said, but Gloria Haney is the reason I volunteer for this project. So I just want everybody in this room to know how much we appreciate you. And thank you so much for everything you do. And I think you deserve a round of applause. Thank you, Gloria.
That brings us to our informal comments. We have a few folks signed up to speak. If you would, I would ask that each speaker address the board from the lectern and begin your remarks by giving your name, state whether you're a resident of Union County, and indicate the municipality if you happen to reside there or where you live in the county. So at this time, we will begin with Wendell Roberts.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to comment. I want to address you, my name's Wendell Roberts. I'm a resident of Monroe currently. I've lived in Marshville and I've lived in Waxhaw. I've served as a law enforcement officer, firefighter, and an EMT in this county. Plenty of experience to also own a business locally. I'm here to support the 2A resolution. I represent a broad swath of the people that live here in Union County who are at work today, I'm sure. Many people would be in support of this if they had the opportunity to be here. My concerns about this are state and federal representatives currently are doing things that are imminently getting ready to infringe upon our individual rights. and not supporting us. And this resolution will give us some standing, or at least a means of communicating what it is we believe in Union County. Just cross the state line north of here and see what's going on yesterday. And not to mention what's going on as we speak in Washington. In closing, I'd look at this room full of people here, and I see many fine residents of Union County. All walks of life, all income levels, all ethnicities. Law-abiding people, respectful people. And we're in support of this resolution. And I thank you for bringing it up.
Thanks, sir. Joseph Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board, for this opportunity to speak. My name is Joseph Garcia. I am a resident of Union County. I currently reside in Waxhaw. I am also the chair of the Libertarian Party of North Carolina, and I am here today to speak in favor of the Second Amendment resolution. The Second Amendment was ratified 8 years after the War for Independence had concluded. And the Second Amendment was written by the founders with the express intent to protect the people's ability to defend themselves against oppressive and authoritarian governments. This protection is also written into the Constitution of the state of North Carolina in Article 1, Section 30. I believe that this resolution is a great first step to help protect the citizens of Union County to have their right to keep and bear arms. The Libertarian Party of Union County and myself stand in support of this resolution. I would ask, though, that the board consider replacing the term sanctuary with protected county instead. I appreciate the opportunity to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Todd Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board of Commissioners. My name is Todd Johnson. I reside at 3118 East Lawyers Road in Monroe, out in the county. I'm reminded a couple of years ago, I'm here to speak on the 2A amendment. I'm reminded just a couple of years ago we had a number of amendments on the ballot. One of those amendments was hunting and fishing. And I remember working polls that day. Someone said, my goodness, this is silly. Why do we need an amendment to protect our right to hunt and fish? Then it dawned on me, there are a group of folks in this country that would love nothing more than to take the rights that we take for granted every single day. Now, I don't know about you, but in my personal belief, my rights do not come from a government. My rights come from God. The purpose of government and the Constitution is to protect those rights. So with this, we see to our neighbors to the north, as was mentioned by a previous speaker, the right to bear arms are basic. That's what makes our country special. Elections, right to bear arms, right to own property. These are things that are coming under attack daily. So don't think it's silly. Don't think it's not coming our way, because it's coming. They're there. They're coming. They're knocking. I do have the privilege of serving Union County in the North Carolina Senate. Bills are filed every single year to take these rights. Unless I'm mistaken, the Constitution is very clear, shall not be infringed. I don't know a way you can spin that. It's very clear. So I appreciate the foresight, Commissioner Akmus, you had to bring this forward, Commissioner Simpson for letting it come on the agenda today. And I encourage each and every one of you to support this amendment, because I will continue to fight to make sure that we protect these rights at the state level. But one day, who knows? Republicans may not be in control. You may have a socialist agenda that's coming down, and it comes right here home. So having the foresight to get out in front of this is very important, and I applaud you all, and I hope that you will support this amendment today. Thank you.
Bobby Schultz.
Mr. Chair, board members, I'm Bobby Schultz, live here in Union County, Monroe, have a business here, born and raised here. I'm here to ask you to support a Second Amendment sanctuary. You know, as Americans, I believe this is one thing that really binds us together from every other place in the world. We have the ability to say no and really mean it. And I was in Virginia yesterday, on the ground. I saw our fellow countrymen from every state in America. It was unreal how many people were there. The news tries to spin this like it was a few radical white nationalists and all this. It's bullcrap. I saw people from every religion, every race. It was the most peaceful protest I've ever seen. I felt safer there than I have in a Panther game. It was insane how many people banded together for the same thing. And I gotta tell you, the people I met and talked with, they really believe their resolution is stronger than any government's. You know, they believe they'll fight and die for their right. The police officers that I saw there, they were in support of it. Nicest people you could have met. It was very peaceful. It wasn't what the news tried to make it into. And I actually felt like afterwards they were kind of disappointed it didn't go the other way. But I got to tell you something else. With or without your permission, we will keep our arms. It's better for everyone in the country if we agree that is our right. The Second Amendment was not there to restrict us. It was there to restrict the government. It's not anything other than a piece of paper stating what everyone already feels. You have a right to protect yourself from anyone. And I just pray and hope that all of you would understand how much of this is going across the country. This is not a small movement. It's large on both sides. You have the Second Amendment pro-gun people, and you have the anti-gun people. Eventually, it's going to clash. No one wants that. If we can all agree, I think everything would be great for everyone, but we can't. So gun owners in this country are looking toward our government to say we agree with you. This is what the government was founded on. If there's anything you guys can do to help us, it's to show us support. Because with or without you, we're going to keep our arms. And that's not a threat, that's just a fact. If you tell someone not to look down, it's the first thing they do. So I'm just begging you, support this. Get behind it. Get it out there in the media. Don't be scared to be a gun owner. Don't be scared to support it. In this day and age, where you can be openly gay or of a different religion, why is it that if you're a gun owner, it's taboo? It's not the way I was raised. I was raised in a gun culture. We had guns, we hunted, we fished. Had nothing to do with the Second Amendment. Hunting and fishing was a normal way of life. So I just ask you guys, please support this. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Cheri Schulz.
Hey, my name is Cheri Schultz. I live also in Union County in Monroe. Actually, Todd's very close by where we live. So I was actually born and raised in Virginia. I've lived down here in Union County now for 9 years. Whenever I went to the University of Virginia and I turned 21, I had 2 items on my agenda I didn't get to do when I was living at home with my parents. One of them was learn how to ride a motorcycle, and the other one was learn how to learn gun safety, because I had never handled either one of those things, and I did kind of snuck away to college and did both. But it was really freeing for me as a young woman. So I was 21 years old, living off on my own. You know, as soon as I could, I got my permit there in Virginia, got a firearm. And you know what? I was basically fearless. You know, anywhere I wanted to go, travel to, things I wanted to go see, I was able to do that without a second thought, because I knew that I had protection with me. And so I was really, thankful to be able to do that. Virginia, obviously you see what's going on in my home state right now. It's really sad what's going on. Really proud of the people who went yesterday and expressed their opinion there. Now I own firearms here. I own an AR-15. It's actually my favorite firearm that I do own. I find it very manageable. And so the firearm that I feel the most confident with as well. I recognize a lot of names up here as being Second Amendment supporters, First Amendment supporters. I really appreciate that. I want to support the resolution that's being put up today. I'm an unaffiliated voter. I would describe myself as being a small L libertarian type person. But I have concerns about how we're going to grow the coalition of people that support the Second Amendment, people that support the First Amendment, people that support the Fourth Amendment. Because this is really getting to be, on a more national scale, something where we're really divided, and we need to be growing this coalition. You know, our recent race that we had for congressman was way too close. You know, it was way too close, you guys. So I really issue a challenge to you. Put forth a comprehensive plan. How are you going to grow the 2A coalition? Also, how are you going to address people who were on the other side's concerns? You know, thinking about there being a mass shooting somewhere, that's extremely terrifying. There has to be a comprehensive plan put forward. How are you going to harden target areas that might be soft targets? What are we doing? So I come to issue my support, and also to provide my support, and also to issue a challenge that we grow this coalition and that we address some of the concerns that people on the other side may have. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our informal comments. Takes us to the additions, deletions, and adoption of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item is our consent agenda. Motion to approve. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Takes us to old business. Item 20 is our comprehensive plan replacement. Jensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you'll recall, a couple of months ago, the board populated the committees for the Union County 2050 Comprehensive Plan update. As part of that process, we have met with our committees, have done our first meetings with them, and actually in some cases have done a second meeting. We had to set our schedules based on everybody's availability to meet. So far, we've had 4 members that have had to resign due to scheduling or some other conflict. Again, the subcommittees have met twice, so it's fairly early in the process. Since it's so early in the process and we've just started, staff is going to recommend that you replace those 4 members. We're not too late to catch everybody up if they're replaced. We did contact the other folks that had signed up to be on a committee. I think it was 164 or something like that. So the folks that did not get selected, we sort of we let them know that these vacancies were out there, and if they were interested, to please let us know. So 27 people responded where they affirmed that they were still interested in serving on a committee. Again, just some background, some of the guiding principles that we used to appoint members. We wanted a geographic balance based on zip code. We wanted a municipal versus county balance based on where people live, so in a municipality versus in the unincorporated area. A gender balance, and we wanted to mix different people that had expertise in different areas. So technical experts, concerned citizens with relevant experience, and community leaders. Just some observations. We did have a lot of folks that were interested. There were many interested and experienced residents that volunteered for the committees, and there were hard choices that had to be made between equally qualified and appropriate candidates. We did not make any recommendations on the replacements. We did, however, provide the following slides that show the folks who are interested. So on Infrastructure Committee, we have 2 vacancies. And you can see the list of folks here that have expressed interest in serving on that committee. The Environmental Committee, we have one vacancy, and again, you can see the folks that have expressed interest in serving. And I believe, were these provided in your agenda packets? I believe
They were.
Okay.
Yes.
And then on the Citizens Committee, we had one vacancy, and you can see the residents there. And what we are asking is to approve 4 replacements to those 3 committees. And I can back up if you want to take action, we can back up and do them however you want. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Ray?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Louis Philippi for the Infrastructure Committee.
Any others? Also, sorry, you go ahead.
Gary Select.
Okay. Hearing no others, we have 2 recommendations for those 2 vacancies. Mr. Salick and Mr. Philippi, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. I'll recommend Mr. Flagg for that environmental position. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None.
I'll nominate Scott Roberts to fill that vacancy.
Hearing no others, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Item 21, resolution declaring Union County a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Commissioner Akins, I believe, brought that forward.
I did, and I'll defer to the county manager for opening
Okay.
comments.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, Jason Kaye, our general counsel, has prepared some information for you regarding the resolution and a little bit of background on what has taken place in North Carolina and other states that border us. And then when Jason's finished, I believe that Commissioner Akins has some comments to make.
Thank you, members of the board. Before you this afternoon is a resolution declaring Union County to be a Second Amendment sanctuary county. As has been noted by the speakers who've come to the lectern this afternoon, there are in fact 2 constitutional provisions that govern this set of rights commonly known as the Second Amendment. The first, of course, is the Second Amendment to the Constitution, which is, at least with respect to this part of the Constitution, perfectly identical with the North Carolina Constitution, Article 1, Section 30, both of which state the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is part of a national movement. There are other states and counties who have gone before us as Second Amendment sanctuary states or counties. At the time of the last research that I conducted, there were at least 4 states as a whole that had declared themselves to be Second Amendment sanctuary states, as well as an additional 228 counties spread over 18 additional states. As many of you have read or may be aware, Virginia is currently dealing with this issue up front and center, and currently there in Virginia, 87 of 95 counties have passed resolutions declaring themselves to be Second Amendment sanctuary counties. In North Carolina, there are currently 4, the counties of Cherokee, Rutherford, Surrey, and most recently Lincoln. I believe because of the timing of our meeting, we might be the 5th. Were the board to pass this resolution, I believe Catawba County and Gaston County are looking at this issue soon if we're to take that from news reports. The resolution would effectively do 2 groups of things. The first thing it would do is make 2 declarations of principle, And the second thing it would do is make 3 declarations of intent. Those declarations of principle, those 2 things are first, for, which is to declare support for the Second Amendment rights of all Union County citizens, and second, declaration of principle against, which is to declare a standing concern and opposition to any law that would unlawfully or unconstitutionally restrict Second Amendment rights. The second group of things this does is to make 3 declarations of intent, the first of which is broadly to uphold Second Amendment rights. The second and third are a little bit more specific. The second is to declare an intent to guard against the use of Union County funds, property, resources, and other items to unnecessarily and unconstitutionally restrict Second Amendment rights. And the second is to prevent aiding or assisting in the enforcement of unnecessary and unconstitutional restrictions of Second Amendment rights. That is the resolution as drafted before you. That's all I have to say.
So like many of you, I've watched with great interest in what's happening in our neighboring state in Virginia. When I heard recently that several of our neighboring counties were passing Second Amendment sanctuary county resolutions, I asked the manager to have legal review and prepare a resolution for Union County, which they have done. Several have asked, why is this necessary? And I'm reminded of the quote by Samuel Adams in 1788 when he said, "The Constitution shall never be construed to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceable citizens from keeping their own arms." Unfortunately, in the world we live in today, not everyone shares this opinion. I'm like you, Mr. Schultz. Doesn't matter what the government says, I'm keeping my arms. The Constitution of the United States and the Second Amendment states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The Constitution of the State of North Carolina, Article 1, Section 30, states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, and as standing armies in times of peace are dangerous to liberty, they shall not be maintained, and the military shall be kept under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. The resolution that we are discussing this afternoon simply states that as the duly elected representation of the people of Union County, we are concerned about the passage of any bill or legislation that could be interpreted as infringing the rights of Union County citizens to keep and bear arms or anything which may restrict the ability to do so. This resolution shows that this board has deep commitment and has a willingness to stand resolute against political winds. This resolution states that we want to protect the rights of our citizens to keep and bear arms, and further that we oppose any law that would unconstitutionally restrict those rights afforded under the U.S. and our state constitution. Today, I'm making a motion and asking that my colleagues support the resolution to declare Union County a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Thank you.
We have a motion. Any discussion? Commissioner Helms.
Yes. December 27th, 1964, I stood and raised my hand and committed to support the Constitution of the United States as I entered the Air Force. That commitment doesn't expire. Also, the past 2 terms, as we were sworn in as county commissioners, we also swore to abide by the Constitution of the United States. I admire Commissioner Akmus bringing this forth. I think we need to support it. I think what we're doing is affirming the obvious to honor our Constitution.
Mr. Rushing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just this past weekend, we were hosting a group of folks from another country that doesn't have the right to keep and bear arms. And as they came back up into the clubhouse, they all had smiles ear to ear on their face and talked about how wonderful it was to go out and do what we take for granted. They noticed that my wife had a group of ladies next door to them working on gun safety and marksmanship fundamentals and working with those ladies. And I said, yeah, I guess in your country, your mothers don't have the right to defend their children. And they said, nope. But they understood the right that a lot of us, again, take for granted. I'm proud to support this, this resolution. This is something that if you don't think we need it in these days and times, then you need to take another look at the news and watch what's going on. This is just the first, and once it's taken away, the others will be simple. And unless you understand that, really get that, it's hard to explain. But I appreciate Commissioner Akmus for bringing this forward, and will wholeheartedly support it.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, can I have some words on behalf of the Sheriff Eddie County?
Absolutely. If I need to suspend the rules, I will.
All right. I'm Todd Elmore. I'm the Chief Deputy for the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Eddie Cathy wanted to be here today, but he called in sick, and that's very unusual for him, but he didn't want to spread the cold virus he had. But he had some words of wisdom for us, and as y'all all know, Sheriff Cathy is one of the most well-respected sheriffs in the state of North Carolina. He's in his 5th term, and he always takes the oath of office to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the state of North Carolina. So these are the words of wisdom from Eddie Cathy he wanted me to relay to y'all today. He says, as Sheriff of Union County, I have and will continue to strongly support and uphold the basic and fundamental rights of citizens established by the Constitution of the United States, including the Second Amendment, which states in part, quote, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, end quote. As such, neither I nor my deputies will confiscate any firearms legally owned or possessed by law-abiding citizens, and therefore fully support the resolution passed or presented by the Board of Commissioners declaring Union County a Second Amendment sanctuary. And he also wanted me to tell you how much he supports y'all, supports the county manager, and he wishes he could have been here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything further? All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Item 22, appointments to boards and committees. We have some vacancies on our Economic Development Board.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Jennifer Duru and Will Howie to fill those 2 positions.
Okay. Hearing no others, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Library Board of Trustees.
Mr. Chairman, am I not reading this correctly that Mr. Berry, Mr. Byram, Mr. Henley, and Mr. Starnes Summerfield have expired? We need to reappoint them?
We reappointed,
We
the
reappointed
board
them already.
reappointed last time.
Okay, all right. Apologize.
No problem. I was looking toward Lynn to verify.
That's what we all have to do.
Board of Trustees for the library. We have Margaret Sowden that's reapplied, Renee Hoddle that's reapplied.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we reappoint Margaret Sowden, Renee Hoddle, Gustavo Aravalo, and Terry Settle, and that we appoint for the first time Beverly Osborne to replace the vacancy left by the resignation or the application of Myra Starnes Helms.
Thank you, Commissioner Akmus. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I misspoke. Last meeting, we delayed those appointments, so we do need to reappoint those.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's not a problem. Thank you for the clarification. All right, we're going to step back, and we are affirming those appointments for the Economic Development Board.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Scott Byram, John Henley, and Gary Summerfield.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Region F, Aging Advisory Committee, we have 1 vacancy. And Lisanne Mangum has applied to fill the position. All in favor of Ms. Mangum, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That takes us to our fiscal year 2020 mid-year financial update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the board, manager. So what we have in front of you today, if you remember, over the last few years, we have started, after we closed the books on the 6th month of the year, coming to you and giving you a projection to year end, talking about where we thought we would be, and starting reporting out on where we are financially through this year. And this is in preparation as we go through the budget process to be able to help inform that decision-making process, as well as to update you where we are through this point. So today we're going to talk about the revenues, the expenditures. New to this year, we have our 2020 encumbrances, which are a change in how we have to report, as outlined by the LGC through the general statutes, that we have to report to you where we are on an encumbrance basis, a projection to year end with our year end fund balance for FY 2021, where we're projecting that to be at this point, and a document that's in front of you, and I'll refer to it real quick. It has should have been in each of your seats. It has our presentation in it. It has the encumbrance report as well as the investment report in accordance with our investment policy. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about that, and if I don't have the answer at my fingertips, we'll be able to get that for you in short order. So jumping into it, with the general fund revenue, as you know, we're at about 6 months, which really means we have about 3 real months of operating, because as we go through the first quarter of the year through July, August, and September, we're really going through our year-end close process and accruing that information back to the prior year and splitting up the expenses and revenues. So this is our very first cut at projecting to where we believe we'll be at the end of 2020. So you can see in this report the actual for 2019, the amended 2020 budget, which is the total of all amendments up to this point, and then the projected 2020 year end. And the way we do this is we look at multiple metrics to figure out where we normally are at this point compared to prior years, in some cases 5 and 10 years into the past. And then we say, okay, if we're at, say, 50% through 6 months, then what does the remainder look like for that? So we use a statistical methodology as well as linear regression to try to establish what those year-end projections would look like. And I'm happy to say we've been fairly accurate over the last few years, at least the last 5, typically within 1 to 2% on our revenue estimates and 3 to 4% on our expenditures. And we have a little more control over those, so that's not a surprise. So where we're at right now, the highlights, we're on pace on our ad valorem taxes as we would anticipate. As you know, we've collected the bulk of our ad valorem revenue already through the year. So we're anticipating that to be just a little bit ahead of what our budgeted numbers are. For the first time in a while, we're ahead on sales tax. And it's important to note that 2020 actual collections is the first time we're seeing the impact of the tax rate reductions that we made in 2019. Remember back that sales taxes are divided amongst the counties and the towns and the service districts on an ad valorem levy basis, which means that as a total percentage of the tax rate levied or the tax bills levied, the county gets back that percentage in sales tax. So when we reduced our rate a couple of years ago, or in 2019, the county saw now in 2020 a reduction in the percentage of sales tax that we're getting. But we're right on pace with what our projections are. So we would anticipate that that continues to be about that same projection. Our intergovernmental revenues are about where we think they should be at this time of year, up and down across the board. But those will come to more in line once we get reimbursements and different things, and those are programmatic revenues. As you can see, enterprise charges for services, we're just tracking a little bit behind. Some of that's due to the nature of how many weekends we have and that kind of thing. So we expect that to tighten up a little bit. Debt proceeds are obviously fully restricted, and that revenue specifically is the GO bonds that we took out for the economic development project. If you remember back in July, we borrowed money to do our economic development industrial park. Interfund transfers and then other revenue, which is primarily consists of our hospital lease. So all in all, we're right on track with our revenue estimates, just a little bit behind what our budget is, but we would anticipate probably that to tighten up as we get further into the year and have more months of data. On the expenditure basis, we are right where we think we normally should be at this time of year. Employee compensation is right on where it normally is if you were to compare year over year. Employee benefits are tracking just a little bit ahead, but that's somewhat due to the number of days we have. It has to do with, there's a third pay period. A lot of times it'll occur right around December. So if you're not aware, we have 26 pay periods in a year, not 24. So 2 months out of the year, we pay 3 pay periods. And depending upon where that pay period falls, it can change that number slightly for projection purposes. Operating costs are about where they normally are. We'd anticipate being a little bit ahead on that. Our capital outlay, we've been projected fully expending that. Contracts, grants, and subsidies. I want to make a note about this because during our budget discussion, you'll remember that we talk about appropriating our economic development grants and using some fund balance to offset that obligation or that contract cost. And that's because when you award those grants to various companies, we have an obligation to pay that, but it's on a reimbursement basis. So they have to come and prove that they paid their taxes and prove that they've grown as anticipated. So as we go through the years, not all of those companies come in or they haven't got to the point where they're ready to get that reimbursement yet. So we know we'll only perform a portion of that outstanding commitment. So we project what that'll be and try to offset that with fund balance instead of using current tax revenues at that point to offset it in that process. So we're seeing those grants and subsidies about where we would expect them to be this time of year comparatively. Debt service, we're projecting that to be fully expended. And then interfund transfers and interdepartmental charges are things that are interfund fund movement, which we control. So we would expect those to come in as anticipated. So all in all, I think we're about where we would think we would be this time of year. And that's good news. And we'll talk about why that is in just a second. As far as encumbrances, you have in your report all of our budgeted funds encumbrance reporting. So there's a significant number of funds. But I just pulled the ones that are over the $5 million mark. You can see our general government fund. And when we talk about encumbrances, and I think this is really important for the folks at home and for you guys to understand, is encumbrances are money that is legally obligated or contracted for the county to spend. So you'll see in the general fund, that first line here, we have about $31.2 million of encumbrances. That means that we have either contracted for, created POs for, or have an obligation through the state, through debt service, some obligation outside of our organization that can be legally enforced to spend that money. So the reason the state has us do this is they want you to see all what you've spent to date, but also what your commitment is. So you can see in the general fund there's about 25% remaining. And in this report, what we don't count is, for instance, employee compensation. While we know we're obligated to pay our employees, we haven't generated that liability until they've worked for us. So in that remainder of 48.7 that's currently available, there's our ongoing monthly operating cost to finish the year as part of that. And you'll see, for instance, in the emergency medical service budget fund, that's our EMS fund, there is about 5% remaining. That's because we have a contract with EMS, and that money is all encumbered to go there. The same thing with the school's budgetary fund. When the board appropriates that money, there's not a basis for us to pull that back. There's a very stringent basis to do that. So once it's appropriated, that money is all spoken for and obligated to that purpose. So this is just those funds over $5 million. The water sewer district, for instance, water wastewater district, there's an agreement with the county and the district, so all of those funds come to the utility. So it's 100% committed. So I just wanted to highlight that for you. We'll be bringing this back each month when we bring this report back to you. And I believe we're going to try to do this at the second meeting of each month, because with our books closing, it takes about 10 days to close the books. So I'll open it up to any questions about this specific report at this point. It's something new that you haven't seen before, that we haven't reported in the past, but we are reporting now. So do you have any questions about that before I move on? Okay, excellent. Thank you. So the next piece that's always of interest is a very early projection of 2021 fund balance. So I'll walk you real quick through this. We start with our June 30, 2019 financial statements. So lines 1 and 2 represent what our total fund balance is. Then we start with our starting position on July 1st, less our estimated usage. So what we were projecting, if we go back to the revenue and expenditures, we are projecting at the year end to contribute to fund balance about $2.1 million. Reduce it by our estimated reserve requirement, which is 20% of operating. We think that'll be right around $63 million, but we'll know as we get closer into budget what that number will be, so that's just a plug for right now. Gives us our total estimated uncommitted at June 30, 2020, which is about $6.6 million. We'll have our 2020 encumbrance roll, which is about $2.5 million. It ranges between right around $2 to $2.5 million. As we get closer, we'll be able to refine that number a little bit. Then we have line 8 is our early redemption. One of those strategies that we'll be bringing back to you in the next couple of months is similar to last year. We have some opportunity to go ahead and buy down some of our debt. If you remember, we issued our last round of GO bonds. We were able to develop some bond premium money in that process. So we have a couple of things we can do with that. Where we're at right now is planning to use that bond premium money in conjunction with some of this fund balance funding to be able to buy down our debt by about $9 million. What this will do is release some of the pressure that we have in next year's operating budget and the year after for that ongoing debt payment, to the tune of about $4.5 million each year. So we'll be bringing back a recommendation and a budget ordinance to appropriate those funds for that debt redemption. And then at this point, because we haven't finished our budget prep, we haven't plugged in any one-time items for next year or for the ongoing budget. So that number sits at 0. That could change, depends upon what happens in the budget process. So as line 10 would indicate, we're kind of projecting at the end of 2021, all else being equal, recognizing that's 18 months out from now, that we will be right around $1.1 million. And that will change based on budget, based on our projections as we refine them. So a couple closing thoughts. Again, this is a really early projection. So as we continue to kind of get data, we will be sure that we refine this, and we'll bring this back to you on a regular basis from here on to the end of the year, finishing with the June. And our projections are in line with expectations. We haven't seen anything out of the ordinary, nothing that surprises us, which is always good at this point. So we feel pretty confident that we know where we're headed and what we'd expect it to be. And as more information concerning the budget becomes available, we'll include that into the projection. So a lot of the bulk of the work in the budget process is being done at the departmental level now. Once it's submitted and the management team does its work with it, and it comes around to that late April, May timeframe when the final manager's recommendation is being developed and put together, that's when we'll really start putting all these things together and have a really good, clear picture of what we think 2021 looks like. Up until that point, we'll continue to update the projections to the year end of 2020. So with that, I'll give it back to you guys. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at this point.
Good job, Mr. Yates. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Takes us to our comments. Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. A couple of items. As you may be aware, the 2020 census count is upon us. Today is actually the first day of census taking, and that is beginning in the most rural areas of Alaska. March 12th through the 20th, all households will receive their census information in the mail. April 1st is Census Day, and that's a day by which all the households should have received their census survey. And by December, the census should be completed and delivered to the President's desk. The first census was taken in 1790, so this will be 230 years of census taking. It's incredibly important for a number of things, least amongst those would be representation and allocation of federal funding. So more to come on the census efforts in Union County. Second item, it was my privilege to be invited and participate in the Martin Luther King banquet on Saturday evening and bring greetings from the Board of County Commissioners and Union County to that group. It was an outstanding program that evening, fantastic food, and I appreciate so much Bishop Gardine inviting me to come and participate in that program. Next, I would like to thank Dr. Drew Houlihan and his staff, the facility staff, the legal staff of Union County Public Schools, and the Board of Education in Union County for their work with Union County regarding the library construction site near Cuthbertson High School. This was a long process of vetting, of discussions, of coming to a common understanding and purpose. We've hammered out all of those issues, and tonight on your consent agenda, you approved that agreement, and so our facility staff now has the charge of moving forward with construction immediately, Mr. Caton. We don't want to wait around. With that, I thank you for your time this evening.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Akins.
Yep. Thank you. I just want to thank everyone that came out tonight, or this afternoon rather, to speak in support of the Second Amendment Sanctuary County. I also want to recognize again Cindy Trubicher for her certification that she received, and certainly want to thank Gloria Haney for the tireless dedication that she gives to the most needy of our citizens. Certainly appreciate all the work by staff to prepare and fine-tune the resolution. And finally, we'll thank you for the support of my colleagues in protecting the rights of all the citizens in this county. So thank you. I wish everyone a good day.
Mr. Rushing.
No comment.
Mr. Helms.
Yes, I'd like to also thank Gloria Haney for her diligence and her work in taking care of our citizens. I want to also thank Frank for bringing up the Second Amendment. I was asked this morning on the radio show, did I have anything against it? I said, yep, Frank beat me to it. I appreciate him doing that. At the last meeting, we added a resolution to the agenda and didn't talk much about it. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that. It was a resolution to recognize Reed Helms for his contribution to Union County and Crime Stoppers. And the resolution stated that Friday, January 17th, was Reed Helms Day. And this board unanimously approved it. I had the pleasure of presenting that to Reed, and totally surprising. So just wanted everybody to know, wanted to get the word out that Reed was recognized, well-deserved. He spent 30 years as a law enforcement officer here in Monroe, and for over 20 years he's been working Crime Stoppers. He's very diligent. Saturday morning, before the thing, he called me and said, "You gonna be there, aren't you?" And I know he was calling other commissioners too. So I just wanted to make that available. I'd like to congratulate Cindy. That's a heck of an accomplishment to get that PMI certification. One thing I will advise her, that it doesn't apply to husbands. My wife never got that memo, and so now I have a project plan. But she needs to be commended for that. That's a very difficult process to go through, and she should be very proud. Thank you.
Mr. Ray? No comments. I have no comments. I do have a motion. I would move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege and to consider and give instructions concerning the handling or settlement of a claim or judicial actions entitled in the matter of the appeal of Lowe's Home Centers LLC and Union County versus Town of Marshville in accordance with General Statute 143, 318, 11A3. All in favor say aye.
Aye.